Hello, how are you doing this evening? My name is Brant Hunt, and we're going to continue to do the Tavistock Institute book that I'm reading here. The hope is to continue to share this book because I feel it's very, very important for people to understand what is happening, how they've been duped in so many ways. So this will be chapter 33. So we're going with Dr. John Coleman's work here. In a poll in the U.S., its origins and purpose exposed. Among the many international agencies Tavistock serves is David Rockefeller's private intelligence service, better known as Interpol or Interpol. That's Interpol. It is in total dereliction of the legal duty that this illegal entity is allowed to go on functioning in the federal property in Washington, D.C. and under government protection. U.S. laws forbid private foreign police agencies from operating in America. Interpol is a private foreign police agency operating on U.S. soil while Congress looks the other way, fearful that one day they might be forced to grasp this Naziist nettle and put it up by the roots. What is Interpol? The U.S. Justice Department tries to explain Interpol by sidestepping the crucial issue. According to the 1988 manual, Interpol conducts intergovernmental activities but is not based on an international treaty, convention, or similar legal documents. It was founded upon a constitution drawn up and written by a group of police officers who did not submit it for diplomatic signatures, nor have they ever submitted it for ratification by the government. How interesting. What a mission. If Interpol does not trample the U.S. Constitution, then nothing does. Where are watchdogs of the House and Senate? Is it that they are afraid of Tavistock and its powerful brokers? David Rockefeller, is the Congress afraid of the Committee of 300? It certainly seems that way. Interpol is a legal entity operating within the borders of the United States without the sanction and approval of we the people in a flagrant violation of the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the 50 states. Its membership consists of individuals appointed by various national governments without any consultation with the government of the United States. A list of members have never been submitted to a House or Senate committee. Its presence in the U.S. has never been sanctioned by a treaty. This has given rise to serious accusation that certain governments under the control of the drug trade, such as Colombia, Mexico, Panama, Lebanon, and Nicaragua, perhaps choose as their representatives persons involved with the drug trade. According to Beverly Sweatman of the U.S. Department of Justice National Central Bureau, whose existence is itself a violation of the Constitution, this U.S. government agency exists solely to exchange information with Interpol. And this is amazing. Owned and controlled by David Rockefeller, Interpol is a private agency with communication networks stretching across the globe. Heavily involved in one way or another with the drug trade from Afghanistan to Pakistan to the United States. You know, the only way to solve this problem, folks, with the drug trade is to stop using drugs, period. If you had the guts to stand up and do that, there wouldn't be any use for drugs, period. It would all drop. That's the problem. I'll continue on. The interaction of Lieutenant Colonel I'll just spell it to you, Nibaldo Madrid of Panama, General Guillermo Medina Sanchez of Colombia, and certain elements of Mexico's federal police with Interpol status point in this direction. Their histories of involvement with the drug trade while serving Interpol are too long to include here, but suffice to say that history is a sordid one. Yet, in spite of the fact that Interpol is a private organization, it was granted observer status by the United Nations in 1975, which statute, totally in violation of the even UN Charter, enables Interpol to sit at meetings and vote on resolutions, even though it is not a member or a country and has no government status. I wonder who runs the United Nations, folks. According to the UN Charter, only states, in the full definition of the word, can be members of the UN. Since Interpol is not a state, why does the UN violate its own charter? I don't either. I don't know that. The reason why, I never even knew this. This is the first time I've actually recognized this. It is believed that UN counting heavily on Interpol networks to help it find private arms in the hands of American citizens held by them under their Second Amendment rights. once the UN signs a treaty with the U.S. government to disarm all civilian populations of member states. Where are American lawmakers who are supposed to uphold and defend the U.S. Constitution? Where are the great statesmen of yesteryear? They're not here. They never were. Okay, they just never were. Interpol demonstrates that what we have in their place are politicians turned lawmakers who do not enforce the laws that laws that they make. Terrified to correct the obvious mistakes that abound on every hand, because if they were to uphold their oath of office, they would be more likely to find themselves without their cushy, cozy job. Yeah. To recap on some of the information already provided, Tavistock Institute was established in Sussex, England in 1921. I was wrong. I said 1910 in my last video. It's actually just a little over 100 years old now. By command of the British monarchy, for the purposes of mind control and public opinion making, and to establish on a carefully examined scientific basis, at one point the human mind would break down under subjection to prolonged bouts of psychological distress. Elsewhere, we shall show that it was first founded in pre-World War I times by the 11th Duke of Bedford, the Marquis of Tavistock. In the early 1930s, the Rockefeller brothers, that is the Foundation Fund, also contributed heavily to Tavistock. The fact that so many of the chief practitioners of mind control and behavior modifications were and are closely associated with the secret societies that embrace cults of many different ideas and beliefs, notable as Osiris, Kabbalah, Sufi, Natharid, Bogomil, and Bahai, which is basically Manichaean mysticism, should be noted. For the unintentionated, the very idea that prestigious institutions and their scientists would be involved in cults and even with Satanism and Illuminatism would be a very difficult thing to see or believe. But the connection is very real. We can see just why Tavistock was so interested in these subjects. For example, the random school shootings by young people subject to prolonged bouts of stress and under the influence of habit-forming drugs are remarkable in that in large numbers of these tragic happenings, the perpetrators nearly always claimed that they were directed by voices to do their deadly work. There can be no doubt that mind control was very much at work in these tragic incidents. Unfortunately, we shall see many more such tragedy episodes before the public realizes what is going on. Cultism, mind control, psychological stress application, and behavior modification are very much a part of what is taught by Tavistock scientists. In fact, alarmed by leaks showing in connection with Tavistock scientists, the British House of Commons passed a law making it legal for places like Tavistock to conduct what the bill called physical research. People are just getting bought out. Politicians don't have any integrity, folks. They don't stand for anything. All they care about is their back pocket. They're peons. That's what they are. They're peons. Now, the term physical research is so ambiguous as to give rise to serious doubt about what it truly means, or whether, as some critics contended, is merely a term used to cover what really goes on. In any event, Tavistock was not about to take the public into his confidence, but I can say with absolute certainty that British intelligence, MI6, and CIA operatives received training at Tavistock: metaphysics, mind control, behavior modification, ESP, hypnosis, the occult, Satanism, and Illuminatism, and the Manchurian cults. These are not just beliefs based on relics from the Middle Ages. This is an evil force being taught in a way that will make a difference to the level of mind control, such as would not have been thought possible a few short years ago. I will make this prediction without fear or contradiction. In later years, we are going to discover that all of the random shootings at schools, post office, shopping malls were not random shootings at all. They were carried out by conditional mind control subjects who were carefully sought out and put on dangerous mood-altering drugs like Prozac, AZT, and Ritalin. The common denominator between several of these random shootings, starting with David Berkowitz, the so-called son of Sam murderer, all without exception told investigators that they'd heard voices telling them to shoot people. The case of Clip Kinkell, that Oregon youth who shot his mother and father before shooting up his high school, in his confessions to investigators who interviewed him, asked why he shot his father and mother. Kincaid replied that he heard voices telling him to shoot them. Nobody will ever be able to prove that Kincaid and the others were victims of mind control experiments carried out by the CIA, or that they did indeed hear voices induced by through transference carried out by DARPA, a computer programmers. The responsible House Oversight Committee must call for the CIA documents covering mind control and search them for a connection with the school shootings. I believe it is imperative that such an order be sent out of the CIA without any further loss of time. Apart from my own research into the subject of physical research, Victor Marachelio, Achelietti, spelled Marachtetti, who was with the CIA for 14 years, revealed the existence of a Tavistock design physical research program where CIA operatives tried to contact the spirits of former agents who had died. As I said in my above mentioned monogram, I've had a great deal of personal experience in the metaphysical realms and know for a fact that a large number of British and American intelligence agents are indoctrinated in it. Wow. Tavistock calls it behavior science, and it has advanced so rapidly in the last 10 years that it has become one of the most important types of training agents can undergo. In the Tavistock ESP program, each participant is a volunteer who agrees to have his personality correlated with ESP. That is to say, they have agreed to help Tavistock find an answer as to why certain people are psychic and others are gifted with ESP. The object of the exercise is to make each and every MI6 and CIA agent highly psychic with sharply developed ESP. Because a number of years have passed since I was directly involved in such matters, I consulted a colleague who is still in the service to find out how successful Tavistock has been with the experiments. He told me that Tavistock has indeed perfected this technique, that it was now possible to make selected MI6 and CIA operatives ESP perfect. Here it is necessary to explain that the CIA and MI6 maintain a very high degree of secrecy about such matters. The matter of intelligence agencies who are in the program are for the most part members of the Illuminati and are Freemasons, or both. In short, the long-range penetration technique applied with such success to the normal world is now being applied to the spirit world. Tavistock's long-range penetration and interdirectional conditioning developed by Dr. Kurt Lewin, whom we have already met a few times, is a primary program where thought control is practiced on mass groups. What gave rise to the program was the British Army Psychological Warfare Bureau all-pervasive use of propaganda, that is, in World War I. The extensive propaganda it ran was intended to convince the British workmanship that war was necessary. Another part of it was to convince the British public that Germany was an enemy and its leaders a veritable demon. This massive effort had to be launched between 1912 and 1914 because the British working class did not believe that Germany wanted war any more than the British people wanted it. Did not even dislike the Germans. All that public perception had to be was changed. A secondary, though no less important task for the Bureau was to get America into the war. A key element in that plan was to provoke Germany into sinking the Lusitania, a large transatlantic liner built along the lines of a doomed Titanic. In spite of warnings and press advisements in New York newspapers that the ship had been converted to an armed merchant ship cruiser and was therefore fair game in accordance with the Geneva Convention, the Lusitania sailed for Liverpool, carrying a full complement of passengers, among them many hundreds of American passengers. The ship holds were packed with large complement of munitions destined for the British Army, forbidden under international rules of war to be carried by passenger liners. At the time it was hit by a single torpedo, the Lusitania was essentially an armed merchant cruiser. The press on both sides of the Atlantic was filled with accounts of German barbarity and unprovoked attack on a defenseless passenger liner. But the American and British public, who still needed a lot more conditioning, did not buy the story. They felt that there was something rotten in the state of Denmark. The sinking of Lusitania was a heavy loss of life, was the type of contrived situation that President Wilson needed, and it inflamed American public opinion against Germany. Profiting from the experience, the British Army Bureau of Psychological Warfare set up the Tavistock Institute for Human Relations on the orders of British monarchy and placed British newspaper magnate Albert Harmswell to the son of a barrister born in Chapelizod near Dublin. He was later awarded the title of the 12th Duke of Bedford, Lord Northcliffe. In 1897, as a run-up to the war that was coming, Harmsworth sent one of his writers by the name of G.W. Stevens to Germany for the purpose of writing a serial 16-part article entitled Under the Iron Heel. In true reverse psychology, the articles were lavish in their praise of the German army, while in the same breath warning that the British nation would be defeated if war broke out against Germany. In 1909, Northcliffe commissioned Robert Blatchford, a senior socialist, to go to Germany and write articles about what a danger the German army posed to Britain. Blatchford's theme was that he believed from his observation that Germany was deliberately prepared to destroy the British Empire. It was in line with Northcliffe's prediction published in the Daily Mail, one of his newspapers, in 1900, that there would be war between Germany and Britain. Northcliffe wrote an editorial saying that Britain needed to use a greater part of its budget for defense spending. When the war broke out, Northcliffe was accused by the editor of the Star newspaper of having propagated a climate of war. Next to the Kaiser, Lord Northcliffe had done more than any living man to bring about the war. The poor editor did not know that he himself had become a victim of propaganda, as the Kaiser had done little to promote war and was looking upon some disdain by the British military establishment. Historians are in general agreement that the Kaiser was in no position to control the German army. It was General Ludendorff who the Star should have referred to. It was Northcliffe who began agitating for conscription from the very day that war broke out between the two nations. This was to be an institution where every aspect of mass brainwashing and public conditioning would be brought to a fine art. A policy and set of rules were established, culminating in Tavistock 1930 long-range penetration and interdirectional conditioning that was unleashed against Germany in 1931. In the period before the first years of World War II, Roosevelt, himself a 33rd degree Mason and a member of the Illuminati through the Society of Cincinnati, which I believe that George Washington was actually involved in, sought Tavistock's help in getting America into war. Roosevelt was under the direction of the 300 to help pull British chestnuts out of the fire, but to do so, you need a major incident to latch onto. All during the period of 1939 to 41, U.S. Navy submarines based out of Iceland attacked and sank German shipping, although neutrality laws forbade engaging in hostilities with combatants. So here we go. This is something really interesting. I don't think I knew this. I don't think I've known this. All during the period from 39 to 41, U.S. Navy submarines based out of Iceland attacked and sank German shipping, although neutrality laws forbade engaging in hostility with the combatants. So what on earth were we doing there, huh? We're already starting a war already. Who gave the orders to do this? But Germany would not be drawn into retaliating. The major incident was to precipitate this was the American entry into World War II, was the Japan attack on Pearl Harbor. This was a Tavistock conspiracy against both nations. In order to foster such an attack, Secretary of State Marshall refused to meet with Japan's envoy seeking to head off the coming conflict. They wanted war, you see. Marshall also deliberately delayed warning his commander at Pearl Harbor until after the attack had begun. In short, Roosevelt and Marshall both knew about the pending attack, but deliberately ordered the information to be withheld from their officers on the grounds of Pearl Harbor. Tavistock had told Roosevelt that only a major incident would get America into World War II. Stimson, Knox, and Roosevelt knew about the impending attack, but did nothing to stop it. From time to time, thoughtful people have asked me, but wouldn't leaders like Lord Haig, Churchill, Roosevelt, and Bush realize how many lives would be lost in the World War? The answer is that as programmed individuals, the great men didn't care about the high cost of human life. General Haig, a noted Freemason, Illuminatist, and a Satanist, declared on more than one occasion his dislike of the British lower classes, and he proved it by throwing wave after wave of common British soldiers against the impregnable German lines, a tactic any decent military strategist would have shunned. As a result of Haig's cautious disrespect for his own troops, hundreds of thousands of young British soldiers from the lower classes died tragically and needlessly. This made the British public hate Germany, exactly as the British Army Psychological Warfare Bureau had predicted, you see. Never dealt with the real problem, you see. Because one of our guys, that is the American guy doing this, that is Haig, doing this, we can't blame him. We have to blame somebody else. As a result of Haig's cautious disregard for his own troops, hundreds of thousands of young British soldiers from the lower classes also died tragically and needlessly. This made the British public hate Germany, exactly as the British Army Psychological Warfare Bureau had predicted. They could never point it at as being the other guy. Much of what I have included in this book I deliberately held back in the first exposure. I did not feel that the American people were ready to understand the magnificent side of Tavistock. You can't feed a baby on meat, folks. Milk comes first. By introducing Tavistock in this way, many minds were opened which otherwise would have remained closed. So that's the conclusion of chapter 33 tonight. And so I hope that, again, this gleans from what the Tavistock Institute is all about. You can see that basically they're involved in many groups and are seeking to, what's the word I'm trying to think, to continue to control us. And we must be aware of that. And so, anyway, it's so vital for people just to see how this has been done, how we've been completely controlled by other people, and they're bloodthirsty and what they want to see happen to this country. Because there's no other country, folks. There's no other place to go. There's no other place to go. Where are you going to go? You know, this is a great civilization at one time, America was. Do you see any other great civilization out there right now? I don't. I don't see any great civilization out there. It sure isn't Europe. It sure isn't China. It sure isn't Russia. There is nothing out there. And you have to realize you're going to have to stand or fall here. You got to realize it's not a military fight. It's a mind fight. They're wanting you to be defeated before you even attack, so to speak, or stand your ground. They want you to give up and not to see the real issue here. You understand? So anyway, I wanted to share that with you tonight. We may do another video tonight, depending. I've done about 3 or 4 of them tonight. I try to keep them shorter for others to listen to them, so they won't be overwhelming with it being an hour. So to be able to be swallowed, so to speak, being less than 30 minutes. Okay, thank you for being here. Appreciate you guys. Hope you have a good night. Take care.